Peace and blessings, Vibe Tribe. It's going up once again. It is yours truly, Bakari Jamboa. I'm the founder of AY Pele Movement. My beautiful wife, Amani Jamboa, is the co-founder. And we focus on your spiritual, your physical, and your financial well-being. And we believe if you are well in all three areas, you will experience a beautiful life on earth. You can say heaven on earth if you will. If you want to use that term, that's perfectly fine. We understand it. We get it. We're going live and direct on the set on tonight. I have my spiritual mother on this evening. And as I stated, we focus on your spiritual well-being. So tonight we're going to talk about spiritual awakening. I am telling you, family, it's going to be a phenomenal program on this evening. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you share, like, and invite. Okay, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're following us on YouTube, okay, hit that subscribe button so you get notifications when we go live. If you're on Facebook, hit that bell so it'll go ring-a-ling-a-ding-ding so we can bring you on in so you can get this wonderful content that we believe that will be life transforming. Well, we'll be back in a short second here. We're going to go for a short commercial break and then we're going to kick it off. Spiritual awakening. Let's go. Well, I'm here with my beautiful spiritual mother, Ufi. How you say it, mother?
Ufedoojo. Ufedoojo.
Ufedoojo. Yes. I'm on here with my spiritual mom. She is a fellow Gullah Geechee in the building.
Yes, in the
Not
house, we
only that,
Gullas.
a
We
fellow
be
New
Gullah.
Yorker.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here with you, son. Grace and peace to you.
Grace and
Awesome.
peace to you too. Thank you so much, mother. I greatly appreciate it. So, family, I want to give you the backdrop how I connected with this beautiful soul. It's wonderful to meet an elder that is knowledgeable of her ethnicity, okay, and who was raised by a grandmother who was Gullah, who spoke the language, okay. We like to introduce you to culture. For those who do not know, I am Mende. I am Gullah. My wife, she's Gullah Geechee as well. In fact, they called her mother the Gullah Queen. Okay. So it's not just solely about that. What we're talking about is the St. Kofa, going back and fetching, reaching back, going back to our beginning, because when you go back to the beginning, you get to know yourself. And so that is one of the reasons why I brought mother on the program, because she is an elder that's wise. She is an elder that is passionate about the culture and passing on the information as it should be, as it was in our village, as the queen mothers do in the village, like amongst the Yoruba people. Now, EY Pele stands for gentle character. Okay. And that's why we called it that gentle character movement. And I connected with my Yoruba brothers and sisters, and they're the ones who taught me the culture and taught me how things were before we were colonized, and we have to reconnect with that. So, mother, thank you so much for coming on the platform. I found out about you through our good brother Chief Folde, your other son.
That's right. That's right. My other son, him, Malinke. Yes, yes.
Yes,
And
indeed.
Amani, peace to Amani. Yes, yes. Grace and peace.
Peace and blessings to
Yes.
my
Peace
queen
and
on the
blessings.
scene. She is out there. She said, peace and blessings, queen mother.
Oh,
For
love you.
everybody that's
Thank
tuning
you.
in, yeah, you got that motherly spirit. You
Oh.
definitely, queen mother, you definitely got that motherly spirit. I'm telling you, you really do. And that's the reason why I brought you on, because of your wisdom and the information that you shared. And so, if you would be so kind, because it's talking about spiritual awakening, please give us the backdrop of your life. Meaning, you started in religion, and please tell us what that religion was, okay, and why did you transition from that religion?
Okay, wonderful. First off, let me start by again saying thank you so very much, son. I appreciate love you. That's two words
Welcome.
together: appreciate and love you, and appreciate love. And that is what I really do. Thank you and your wife for embracing me and for allowing me to come on and share this evening. I like to call it sharing because I certainly don't want this to be a bashing of any particular
Yes.
religion.
Thank you. Thank you. We
I'm certainly
appreciate
not here to do that
it.
because no, I certainly do appreciate my roots. I really do appreciate the foundation of where I began because I think everybody has a journey. Everyone is on a journey, and everyone's journey is particularly special to them. And so I do appreciate that the journey that I came through. First of all, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York,
New
Crown
York,
Heights.
stand
Crown
up.
Heights. Yes, yes. And Brooklyn, New York has its own very unique culture. It's so very, it's the birthplace, the home of consciousness is what I'd like to call it. Now, I grew up I'm gonna tell my age a little bit, in the 60s and the 70s as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, which was a very interesting time. I really appreciated that time, as I said, because it was I lived a block over from Queen Afua and Baba Haru. Didn't know them at the time, didn't know anything about consciousness, didn't know anything about spirituality, but I was staunchly one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I probably have knocked on more doors and tried to proselytize and bring people over to what we called the truth at the time. And in Brooklyn, New York, the witnesses in New York, period, Jehovah's Witnesses were very well known for going door to door. And that is something that I engaged in and I gave my entire life to. I dedicated my life literally to being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I really embraced a lot of the history of the religion. A lot of, there are a lot of people who have had experience with Jehovah's Witnesses. And Baba John Henry Clark, I found out his daughter was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, he is our esteemed scholar and someone that I really started listening to a lot in this spiritual journey of mine. And like I said, there was a lot in the religion and a lot that I learned in terms of the foundation of morality, a lot in terms of the foundation of how we treat one another. You know, as witnesses, my friends and I at the time, we were very close knit. We had a very close relationship. You know, we often spent time at one another's homes and, you know, things like that. And we did socially, we went out door to door, we did street witnessing. And at that time, you know, I didn't even realize it. I wish I had known back then in the 70s that Elder Malcolm X was in Harlem teaching on the sidewalks. If I knew that, I would have been torn, but I didn't. And so it's almost like what we went through as witnesses, as a young person, as a teenager, it was just really something that I think it was almost like a rites of passage. My mom always studied. She studied with witnesses from the time I was 2 years old. I have an older brother. He is 4 years older than I am. And so we often, we just, that was just something that I jumped into when I was 13 years old. I decided to make a full dedication by getting baptized by, they call it water immersion, full water immersion. And so that just outwardly showed people that you were committed, dedicated, and this is what your life work is going to be for the rest of your life. So I made decisions based on the commitment of the end of the age, now that I understand it differently, as opposed to the end of the world. The end of the system of things, or the end of the age, is what Yeshua, now that I understand it better and have a clarity of and have had a spiritual awakening, that it was an end of an age that Jesus was talking about in the book we call the Bible. So now you stop me and bring me back now, because I can just kind of roll, you know, I'm in radio. And so I roll. But
It's okay. So, you
mhm,
know, let's talk about, because we got the backdrop, you know,
mhm,
so let's talk about what occurred that led you to
mhm.
reconnect with your African spirituality. And let's also, two-part question, let's also deal with what supernatural experiences did you have that uh helped to solidify that decision, like, okay, this is the right direction I need to be going in?
That's a great question, and thank you for that.
You're
So
welcome.
I I kind of, well, let me just say it like this. As I was raising my children as a single parent, I found that even though I had always committed my life to this religion that we called the truth, that we were the only ones that knew the right way and the right religion. And I think everybody's spiritual system, people want to believe that it is the only way and the right way. And so but I was always depressed, son. I was always down. I was always struggling. There was always this, just a hand to mouth existence. And I often wondered to myself, well, if I have the truth and if I have the connection to God and nobody else does, why am I always having such a hard time in life? And so that began, I kind of went through a lot of, I just questioned a lot of things. And like I said, mainly the depression was what I questioned. And so I remember one evening I was, just asleep, and I was in my room and wondering, probably crying myself to sleep as I often did. And I remember being awakened um, and feeling that I was not alone. And I remember just waking up, and I sat on the side of my bed, and a tangible presence I knew was surrounding me, was in my room, was on the outside. And even at the moment, I looked at, it was dark, it was night. And I looked at my window, and it was like this brilliant light was coming through the shade and the curtain. And it was like glittery diamonds. I can't really describe it, but it was like diamondy, just a glistening coming through my light. It was a beautiful glory. And I remember holding my head down like that. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the world is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, and this happened July of 2001. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I said, wow, what is going on? And I felt like I was coming, I felt like I was watching myself in the room, like I was above my body, having somewhat of an out of body experience. And I remember it just being so clear. I just had just a peace. At first it was startling, but as time went on, it became more and more. I became more and more calm in my spirit. And I'll never forget. The next day, I
Mm-hmm.
said to myself, I'm not sure what exactly happened,
Mm-hmm.
but there was something that just occurred that was supernatural. And
Mm.
I have come now to believe more that the supernatural is more real than the natural.
Mm.
And that world that we used to talk about as Jehovah's Witnesses, like when you pass on,
Mm-hmm.
that there was no life, that there was nothing. I just
Mm.
don't
Wow.
I don't see that anymore. But that experience changed me, son. It changed me because I remember thinking to myself that I was sitting in the Kingdom Hall, like maybe that weekend after that happened, and I
Mm-hmm.
just felt so alien. I remember looking around, and I'm
Mm.
thinking to myself, I don't belong here anymore.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I
Oh,
and it just felt like
ooh. I
I,
say, oh.
I'm looking at the brother up at on the platform, as we say, and he's talking, and I'm looking at him, and I got up and I went to the restroom, and I said, I closed the door, and I said Jehovah, because we always talk about Jehovah. I said, I
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
know what you're about to do or where you're taking me, but I
Mm-hmm.
know that I no longer want to come to this place. Now, mind you, you could not have ever convinced me that I would ever have not died one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I was
Ditto.
staunch, committed,
Ditto.
I was rooted. You couldn't, I just wouldn't have ever believed that where I am today, that I would not have been. But as I said, I believe that was a stepping stone. I believe that that experience that I had was a real experience that, and that nobody else could tell me that didn't take place, that it was like not, and it just, I just felt fresh in my mind, and I wanted to read so many things. Now, mind you, anytime any organization wants to limit or stop you from reading specific materials from specific people, that's something, that's a flag, because no one should ever be so intimidated by something that you read that they might feel like you're going to learn something and they want you to think a different thought. So that was the basis of them, because they printed every piece of material that you were supposed to get your reference from. Now they printed their own concordance, they printed their own materials. Of course, the Watchtower Awake, the Bible was even translated. It's called the New World Translation. So it was a version and a translation based on, supporting the doctrine. So after I had that experience, and after I said that I can no longer visit this place anymore, this Kingdom Hall, I can no longer go, I began to read other materials. Like, I read a book called Woman, Thou Art Loosed by Bishop T.D. Jakes. Now, I'm telling you, this experience went in phases. It went in stages.
I can relate.
Because after coming out of the Kingdom Hall, you kind of have this thing about, well, how am I going to worship? What am I going to do now? I mean, like, okay, I'm not going to go to the Kingdom Hall anymore. I know that place is no longer fitting where I am. And so now what next? So my progression was, I started watching Christian television, like the TBNs and things like that. And there were certain pastors that I gravitated to, certain teachings. I wanted to, I looked at people like Creflo Dollar, and, his place didn't look like a church, where they met. It didn't look like a church to me. So that was comfortable to me, because, the Kingdom Hall doesn't look like a traditional church, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. So, and then I found out that these were the Word of Faith people, like Frederick Casey Price. And I really like Frederick Casey Price. So I gravitated.
I grew up listening to him too.
Did you really see?
Yes, ma'am. My grandma, she used to listen to him all the time.
Now, listen, he did a series called Race, Religion, and Racism.
Oh,
and that
yeah.
we could probably spend a whole bunch of time on that alone. But now, I didn't, it was July 2001 when I had that spiritual experience. And I'll never forget, let me ask you that. Let me answer this. In September of 2001, that's when 9/11 took place. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, is the world really coming to an end now? And I don't know, I had so many different thoughts. I'm thinking, okay, is the world really coming to an end now? Because, I had preached all my life. Like I was in my 30s. I had preached all my life, the world coming to an end. So I'm like, okay, is the world coming to an end now in 2000? Because you never would have thought that you saw something like the World Trade Center just poof coming down. I'll never forget watching it that day.
It was a lot of people thought about that too. It was a lot of people was talking about that.
Yeah. I said, so wait a minute. So I had a couple of different thoughts about that happening. Like I said, now either I got out in time, I got, and I'm really going to be safe. You know what I'm saying? Or I missed it. You know what I'm saying? I missed it. That this spiritual awakening that I had at the time, maybe this isn't, maybe I should have stayed. I don't know what I was thinking, but it was just so many things going on. But anyway, fast forward to me really learning. And I believe Spirit had me going in different, looking through different teachers. There was Dr. Miles Monroe. He's another very good kind of
I used to listen to him too.
Oh my goodness. So,
I sure did.
And I even like Joyce Meyer. I can name all of the they call them Word of Faith teachers. So I went through that phase. Starting from 2001. But it's a displacement. You feel like an unease when you first separate, because I thought lightning was going to strike me
Right.
from heaven because I stopped going to the Kingdom Hall. I thought, oh my
Yes,
God, Jehovah's
ma'am.
going to
Yes,
just
ma'am.
destroy me. You
I
know,
was
that's the
scared
term.
of hell. As for me,
Was
I
you
was
scared?
scared.
You
Yes,
scared of hell?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I was
Interesting.
scared of hell. I was afraid to go to sleep.
Mm.
I was afraid to go to sleep because
Mm-hmm.
I was that persuaded that hell, was real.
Yes.
And when I started practicing my spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I found out that those things, were not real, and that it's really a mental state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when the
Right.
goon goon came at the ancestors, we don't know, I'm talking about Yuba word for ancestors, came and visited me in my dreams, and I was at peace. And when I seen that I was happier, it was like everything that they told me that would happen to me negatively
Mm-hmm.
never happened.
Mm-hmm.
It
Right.
never happened.
Mm-hmm.
My life actually got better. I was
Mm-hmm.
happier. I was
Yes.
at peace,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know. And so please continue on your story. I just wanted to caveat on because I can relate, because I had went through that purging to myself, and I had to
Yeah.
get purged from those things as well. Now I'm free now.
You
I'm
free,
not going
you
back.
feel free, right?
I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
going
no.
back.
It's a good place to be. It's a great place to be, because with that freedom, it comes a clarity in your mind. You always, you don't want to be connected in fear because of fear. You don't want to think of yourself in terms of, oh my God, if I don't do this, if I don't do that. It's like you're living constantly in a state of, when is this gonna, the shoe
Mhm.
gonna drop,
That's right.
and I feel like, God doesn't want us to live like that. And it's a method of control,
There you
being
go.
in,
It's a terroristic tactic. I always say
ugh,
that because
mhm,
the root word in
mm,
terrorism is terror, and it is a
mhm,
terroristic tactic that they
mhm.
use to get you, to be mentally incarcerated. Oh, if I don't follow after this, my soul will be lost forever.
Yes,
And that's not even an African concept.
mm,
That was added in there, by the Roman Catholic Church.
mhm, mhm,
That's not an African concept. Many people talk about Christianity coming from Africa.
mhm,
However, you can tell by the teachings and the language itself, talking about apostle, bishop, evangelist, deacon,
mhm,
all those words are Greek words. That being
mm,
said, that it has been tampered with, if it was. And I haven't seen any proof yet that there was an African translation, you know what I'm saying, that it was translated from. That's just
mhm.
me. Maybe somebody, if you can show me somebody, give me a source, that's fine. But I have
Mhm.
yet to see that. Please continue, mother.
No, and the oldest writings of the beginnings of time, and I'm no scholar either. I'm not an African scholar, on African studies. There are so many books that I would like to, share a few, and some scholars that will go back into the ancient writings, and a lot of the ancient writings that are in Kemet, what we call Egypt, but its original name is Kemet. And a lot of the writings, there are origin writings, and we probably, the quickest one I can think of is Asar, Aset, and Haru. And so that's
Yes, ma'am.
and so, and
They
in
call
that,
an original like Anthony Browder and Chika Kua and Astro Kwesi, say like the original, Trinity.
Trinity, yes, because you can't
Yeah.
have life without the feminine. How can you have life without feminine?
All right. Talk
So,
that talk. Go ahead, mama.
and so,
Talk
and
that
so,
talk.
and you mentioned Tony Browder. Anthony Browder is an excellent, and that's one of the first books I bought of his. Also, Anthony Browder's Nile Valley Civilizations. Um,
Yes, yes. That's
yeah,
a
that's a
powerful,
very
powerful
good book.
elder. We
Yes,
had him on
definitely.
our platform too. We did an interview with him.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, he's
Yes, mama.
very, very, very. I learned a lot from the Browder Files. His daughter, the work that she is doing. Just you're right, a very, very prolific one, scholar. And there's so many. And so, as I said, I just really, but there was that that progression, because a lot of those teachings, from TD Jakes, especially that book, Woman Thou Art Loosed. As I said, I had a whole lot of emotional darkness. I had a lot of emotional darkness as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, even though I was out there, trying to pretend that I was, okay. And I was just, solid, but I was just a mess. Yeah, I was a mess. And it kind of like, I remember when I first read Woman Thou Art Loosed, it taught me about a Jesus at that point that I didn't know. I didn't realize that there was a Jesus that cared about me to the degree that even if I didn't have gas in my car, if my children didn't have the school supplies they needed, that he was that kind of a caring individual. As I said, I really do credit, and in all of the journey, you can't just throw out the baby with the bathwater, because those are our stepping stones. But now when you do even deeper study and you find out, like you said, when you go to the root, we know that our foundation, the very birthplace of civilization, is Kemet. And I know that there is a lot of discussion now going on about the ethnicity of the original people of Kemet, but we don't have to fight that fight, because we already understand, we already know what that is. So it's not for us to try to convince other people. But if my grandmother used to always say, she would always talk about spirit and just knowing. And so a lot of things, that the more I opened myself up to further teaching, and because as a Jehovah's Witness, I was not doing that. I was only reading the Bible. I was only reading their reference materials, and I was only reading everything and anything that had to do with the witnesses.
It reminds me of the garden in Genesis. That's what that remind me of, what you're talking about, how that entity did not want, according to the story, did not want man to eat of the tree of the knowledge. You see?
Come on, son.
The knowledge.
That's
so it's that force, it's that same force that is over that religion, and people don't know what they're dealing with. They think they know. A lot of us thought we knew.
Right.
But this force doesn't want you to come into the knowledge of truth, because then you'll be free. And a lot of people have to understand how the supernatural works too, when you're dealing with a entity needing a host to function in this earth. It feeds off of the energy.
Yeah.
But see, that's another story. We talking about spiritual awakening. See, my wife and I, we dealt with spiritual warfare, right?
Yeah.
So we understand that it's true that there is entities that are not human, that people are interacting with, just like in that story in the garden, where it was this entity speaking to Eve.
Come on.
That's right. It's these forces, these things. People think that you're out of your mind. People think, oh, they're schizophrenic. Oh, they're crazy. Well, some people are medically, not in their right mind. But in some cases, there is a force. And that's why we're calling this spiritual awakening. I'm not here trying to persuade anybody, because my experiences of me experiencing it personally and indirectly, I know this thing is real. It's not some sci-fi movie stuff. People they could call it spookism all you want. Well, my wife and I, we dealt with exorcisms. So we know that this thing is real. And some people don't know that this force has befriended them and making them think, oh, this is a good spirit. Oh, this spirit is on my side. And oh, the spirit, well, why don't the spirit want you to be awakened? Why the spirit don't want you to come into the full knowledge of the truth of who and what you are? Why is this force incarcerating you and having you to continue to follow after something that's not rooted in your culture? Okay, Mama, please continue.
No, you are right on the mark, and people without their culture, when we were brought over here, forcibly kidnapped and brought over here, the first thing they did was take us away from our names, took us away from our culture. They separated us so that we could not stay together and continue to do the things that we were used to doing when we were over and interrupted. Some of these museums, when they start off our history as if slavery was our beginning. No, slavery was not our beginning. we were interrupted. We were over in Kemet. We were over in even before, there's another book that came before Columbus. There were even, what did we call them? We were talking
You're
before,
right.
Aboriginal people, the
Aboriginals.
original people, and
That's right. Or the natives.
the Native Indians,
Or indigenous.
Indigenous people, and those of us who were kidnapped and forced over here, we were targeted because of our special abilities, because of our natural abilities to farm, and our scientific abilities, our education, our medicine, our healing. My grandmother would go in that field and get some of that stuff called Life Everlasting and boil that thing, make a tea out of it, and whatever was ailing you, if you drank that stuff, you was gonna be all right. And so they knew how to use the products of the earth. And the herbalists and the healers, they were the healers. You want to call them the root people, and that's all right. Call them the root people. The root workers knew how to work the root.
That's right.
We were conditioned to look at those things as if they were so, demonic, But you run to the doctor and get the synthetic drugs,
mama.
That's bringing people to more, that's addicting more people than a little bit. Look at these opioid crisis, and that's all they do is prescribe a pill. Nobody ever wants to teach you how to heal yourself. Woman, heal thyself. That's what that word came to my mind with Queen Afua. Woman, heal thyself. If nobody is teaching you how to live, but Dr. Sebi, he's one of them. And I found out Dr. Sebi,
peace and blessings be upon him.
Peace and blessings be upon him. But I lived down the street from Dr. Sebi and didn't even know it. My mind was so conditioned to go knock on people's door. I might have knocked on Dr. Sebi door. I don't even know. But anyway, he lived on Pacific Street. I didn't know that, but anyway, work that route.
Well, he would have came in agreement. He would have said, because he spoke that a lot before he transitions, went into the ancestral realm. He always used Genesis when it says the herbs of the earth, that it would be the meat, so that's where, like what you said, people are not really paying attention to what they're actually doing. Like, for instance, like there's a verse in the Bible that says these things that are falsely called science. So, but people don't understand, like, even when you're dealing with time, your watch is science. The microwave you're using is science. Your cell phone is science. The internet is science. The Wi-Fi is science. Everything. Even your toothpaste that was created, even the tube, it was created through science. Your vehicle was created through science.
Wow.
But you have so much of a problem with us when we talk about using the herbs, and the things that will heal. And then, another thing about it, people don't pay attention to, is that their diet, they went to a doctor to get a diet that's catered to them. That's science to heal their body. Okay, mama, go ahead. Go ahead, mama.
No, but I'm telling you, we were people interrupted. We were targeted because of our knowledge, because other civilizations, the Greeks, the Europeans, they were coming to Kemet. They were coming to us to learn things. They came because they knew that knowledge was there in Kemet, and they learned. And it didn't say in the book, in the Bible, that Jesus, there was not knowledge of him for a long time. Now Yeshua really is the name. Jesus means hail Zeus, but Yeshua, that's more of a name that I can identify with now, and that there was a time when he was hidden in Egypt. He sure couldn't hide in Egypt if he didn't look like some black folk.
Anyway, Africans, like Moshe, people. Like the story about Moshe. You're absolutely right. I mean, if Moshe was pale skinned, like the ones who say that they are the Jews, which they are, I know people want to argue that, but the truth is, in the Hebrew language, there's no J. So a lot of times people talk about, being a Jew, but the truth is, if you claim anything, it would be you being a Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? Because there is no J in the language. And I've even challenged, them on that as well, because they speak a mixed. You got Sephardic, then you got the Ashkenazi tongue,
Ashkenazi, that's right.
And even within their language, there is no J. So where you get that from? But that's another story.
But that's all right. No, that adds to it. It's so true. It adds to it because, and then I know that's kind of basic when we say that Yeshua was of African descent, because and then for some people to say that it doesn't matter, it matters, because it's the effort to hide so much of the information that's now coming out. Why is there such an effort to hide it? And you know what I'm saying? Because Dr. John Henry Clarke says that our history has been erased from the respectable commentary of American history. And we have such a richness. There is so much in the study of our origins. Sheikh Anta Diop is another one. I've got his book here, Pre-Colonial Black Africa. Sheikh Anta Diop, Senegalese scholar. He was so very prolific. And so, we just have so much that we can learn from about our history, and it does matter. It does matter.
It does. And I have the caveat on what you said, because when you do, if people want to get into biblical studies, like they just want to go even just by the Bible, if they just want to stick with just the text, even in Matthew, it gives you the breakdown of the lineage of Yeshua. And it specifically gives you the bloodline of Yeshua, even there. And it's all Hebraic. It's all Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, he come from one of the 12 tribes. According to the text, he came from the 12 tribes. You understand?
Yes.
So how could then, and I haven't seen it yet either, of a Hebrew translation into the Greek as far as the New Testament. And a lot of times people try to make that Hebrew, but why are you calling yourself a bishop? For those who say that they're Hebrew, that always baffled me. You calling yourself a Hebrew, but you got the title bishop, and bishop is a Greek word. It means episkopos. It goes into episkopos, which is overseer, which goes into being a steward of. Evangelist is a Greek word. The root word evangel is good news. Apostle is Greek, in the definition of that word means to be sent forth. Pastor is Latin. You understand? So this is the reason why linguistics is so important, because you can debunk the lie just by dealing with the language.
Absolutely.
Just linguistically, you can debunk it that is not of African root from the language.
That's so interesting that you say that, and that's a powerful thing, because I have a friend, a very dear friend. He says that a lot of how does he say that? He says there is a difference between the fabricated Roman Catholic version of Jesus and the blonde haired, blue-eyed version of Jesus. There's a difference between him and Yeshua, the Hebrew Messiah. And Yeshua, the Hebrew Messiah, there's so much to be said about him, his nature, his very person, the way he treated people. Now, he had so much trouble. He had the most trouble with the religious leaders of the day. Religious leaders of the day, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, he often had so much trouble with them. And he wasn't Christian.
Exactly. And you know what they say? They try to use the scripture reference. I'll challenge anybody on this. Anybody that's out, anybody that claim to be a biblical scholar, it's only that word is only mentioned twice in the Bible, and that's in the New Testament. Okay. Matter of fact, no, I have to stand corrected, 3, because he said one time it says allegedly that King Agrippa said, you almost persuaded me to be a Christian. And then it also says that they were first called Christians in Antioch, which historically that's wrong. See, a lot of people don't want to deal with that. Even historically, that's not even the truth. And then there was one time in Peter, he said, if I suffer as a Christian, you see, I'm just saying. So, you know, what I like to also bring to the so-called Christians' attention, because they get so stuck on that word, right? Because I became non-denominational before I actually relinquished Christianity. Okay. And I was non-denominational. I didn't even claim to be a Christian. You understand? Because I started doing my research even on the Torah, and doing it on the Torah, and then reading the prophets, and they even misinterpret the prophecy about the so-called virgin birth. It had nothing to do with the New Testament text. You know why? Because they just read that verse. They don't read the whole chapter in its entirety to get a better understanding of what that actually means. It's a misinterpretation and a mistranslation of that. Okay. It never said his name was going to be Emmanuel. It never said that.
Never said that. Wow.
Never said that. You know what I'm saying? The prophecy never said that. It was actually a sign to a king. The prophet was actually talking to the king at the time, and the king was supposed to get a sign in regards to that specific prophecy. I'll challenge anybody to claim to be a scholar. Read the whole text. Read the whole text. You understand? You know, so that's and even when it comes to tithing, because we're talking about spiritual awakening, tithing was only for the Levitical priesthood, and it was only specifically for the high priest. Go check the text. It says they gave a tenth of the tenth. And then Malachi chapter number 1, verse number 1 distinctly says that Malachi was talking to the house of Israel. When you check the prophecies, right?
Yes, sir.
To the house of Israel, it was always to the Israelites. It was never to any heathen nation. The prophets always, think about it. When Moshe went to the story,
going to the allegory.
when he went to Kemet, who did he go for? The house of Israel. Check I'll challenge anybody. Check every prophecy. It was always to the house of Israel for them to turn from their wicked ways and return back to Torah. It was always to the house of Israel. It was never to no other nation.
Interesting.
Yes, but anyway,
this is beautiful.
I just had to break that down.
It
because
is.
Because we got to keep it in perspective, and that's what happens is that it gets misinterpreted because the tithe was never money. The only time you ever hear about the tithe, and I'll challenge anyone, study it. The only time you ever hear the tithe about money is when they were too far from Jerusalem, which is Jerusalem for those who look at it in the English perspective. You know what I'm saying? But remember, there's no J, so it couldn't have been Jerusalem. Remember, in the Hebrew tongue, there's no J.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So anyway, when they were too far from the place where they're supposed to take the tithe, according to the text, it says that then they could turn it into money and spend it on whatever they wanted to. But the tithe was grain, it was oil, it was certain parts of the animal that had to be given only to the Levitical priesthood. So a lot of these individuals that's claiming that the tithe is for them, they're out of order because you're not a Levite. And not only that, when you read the text, it says that it was supposed to be a perpetual law, meaning a law forever. So you can't break that. Now, then they say, oh, you can't change one jot or one tittle. Oh, we're not under the law anymore. These are the things they try to change, but you can't see nowhere where the tithe was enforced, even in the New Testament. You can't see it. You can see the word, but you don't see it being enforced. And when it was, it says, is there meat for my storehouse, right? You have robbed me of my tithes and all, bring unto me the tithes and all, right? You know, to the storehouse was for the grain and for the oil and all those things for the priests. because the tithe was grain and oil. I'm talking about according to the text.
Yes, yes.
So they don't understand what that means. See, they mistranslate that. Because he said, I've commanded you to give the 10th to the priest, because they were full-time. That's what people get full-time ministry from, being in full-time ministry, because that's what they did. According to the story, they were in the holiest of holies, the holiest place forever. Only the high priest could go there. There was the priest, and then there was the high priest.
Yes.
And the high priest was the one that went into the holiest of holies.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
And they took the, that's where they took the fat and all the other stuff like that, the animals, and they burnt all other stuff like that, so that's all I'm saying. So that's where they misinterpreted that, and they're like, oh, it's for the pastor. Oh, but that's not even a Hebrew word. It's not a Hebrew word. And then not only that, you could not be a priest if you wasn't a part of the Levitical priesthood. It was the sons of Aaron distinctly that was chosen to hold that office.
Wow.
According to the text, it was only Aaron. Yes, there was the tribe of Levi, because according to the text, he was a part of the tribe of Levi, Aaron. Right? And so it was his sons that was chosen to do it. It wasn't everybody. It wasn't all the Levites. It was distinctly through the sons of Aaron. They were the ones that was distinctly chosen to hold that office. So just because even you was a Levite, you couldn't approach it, because according to the story, the Most High chose the sons of Aaron. Oh, we just had a short Bible study real quick.
Listen,
go ahead on, Mama. We just had a short.
You must. I'm gonna come to your Bible studies even more often now. Listen, I definitely have to come to your Bible studies. It's so true. You have to be able to rightly divide that word. Isn't it what it said? You have to rightly divide that word, and it may not always line up with the script. I had an auntie. She used to tell me, the script is one thing, but the truth is something else.
There you go. That's it right there. That's it right there. And then
it's just to keep it, just to keep that narrative. It's a certain narrative that has to be maintained, but you cannot study the Bible without looking at history. You have to have historical reference also, in order to properly and fully, get that word, get that understanding of the book of the Bible. So you have to read more than just that.
And our women are not silent. And our women are not silent.
No, we're not supposed to be.
Because like I said, in the Yoruba culture and even in the Mende culture, the women are not silent.
They're held at a high honor as well as the man.
The feminine energy, right? I said, even when you're dealing with Ifa, you're dealing with Yamoya, Oya, Oshun.
Yes.
Right?
This is another good study.
You're dealing with Mommy Water. You're dealing with Mommy Water, right? Mommy Water.
Yes.
I mean,
that's a powerful. She's a prophetess. Probably the Sibyls. Oh Lord, don't get me started. I'm telling you what, it's the honor of the divine feminine is coming back into play. And that, the patriarchal society has really gone on long enough, and we're in a different age. We've come to a different age where we have to bring the divine feminine back into play. And we have to have this understanding to balance it out. And when you talked about Ma'at, I am so in love with the philosophy of Ma'at. And I showed that book, Dr. Muata Ashby. Dr. Muata Ashby. He talks about the Ma'at philosophy, and is built on the basis of it is truth, love, justice, balance, righteousness, harmony. Those are good things. Those are really good things to build a foundation on. And that's what our civilization, our foundation was based on, the foundations and the principles of Ma'at. And in the subtitle, it says the ancient Egyptian path to righteous government, spiritual social ethics, self-mastery, and mystical spiritual enlightenment. We must stay in the light. The light is what we want to bring our people back to, the source, the original source, the divine mother feminine energy of the earth. We have to now come back into a state of harmony so that we now, because it had been taken over so very much by the patriarchy. But we have to come into that divine feminine, and that's so important, so that we, as women, we have to heal. There's so much healing that needs to be done. And of course, the nurturers, we are, as nurturing women, we are so well equipped for that. We can nurture people back to health based on helping them through their shadow work. We don't want to tell them what to do. We just want them to be guided by what to do, because they're awakening so that they can clear out the things that are maybe blocking them from opening their understanding to the deeper understanding and knowledge of the Bible. Because I think sometimes we use church as a drug. When we use church as a drug, it's like you go there and get your fix on Sunday. You run around, you sweat, and you break a heel and jump over the pews. But then when you come out, you feel like you're not changed. You feel like, well, what difference has that made in my life? I'm still going back to the same depression. See, I was like that as a witness. I felt like I was told I was so in the truth, and this is the right religion, and oh my God, and all of that. But I'm just broke. I'm having trouble with my relationships. Can't keep a brother. Then all of this stuff like that. I said, wait a minute, there's something going wrong. It's something not right here. And when I went into the church, it was like a difference. It was like the same thing. I go in there and jump around and pass out. I used to tell people I gave the pastor a courtesy drop. When they do your head like that, and you may not feel anything, but sometimes I just go on back and just give the, just okay, let's, but I didn't really feel, honestly, I just really didn't feel that I had a change, that there was any spiritual burst going on. It's like it was an ebb and flow until I really got into the vein of learning this African culture and the foundation of my Africanness. I cannot be more African. I'm telling you, I am so very excited, delighted, elated to be African. I used to look at my grandmother and I would think that she was just she was royalty to me. I listened to the way she talked, and I was just always sitting at her feet. And so, and let me go back to the church. Amani, I'm trying to focus, right? Daughter. But, yeah, the courtesy drop. But anyway, like the Benny Hinn. But anyway, and once you come out, I love you back. When you come out of the church and then you feel like you go back to the same thing, you still, you're like a porcupine. My ex-husband used to say, why you still so, you're just like constantly, you're on edge, you're anxious. But so that when that drug wear off, when the ether wear off of that Sunday experience, and you just go back to being the same way that you were, there's no spiritual enlightenment. There's no spiritual change. There's no, where's the power? The book says the same power that raised Yeshua from the dead lives on the inside of us. Where is the strength in that same power that raised him from the dead? If it's living on the inside of us, surely we ought to have an even deeper experience. There ought to be some manifestation of a life that we can say, look at the way they live. There's just something about them. We ought to be a people, and we once were. Something happened to us. What happened to us? Something happened to us. It's the African Holocaust. The Ma'afa happened to us, the African Holocaust. But we have to come back. Sankofa, as you mentioned in the beginning. We've got to go back and fetch it, like my ring. Go back and fetch it, right? Sankofa. We must do that as a people collectively, because we still are. We're a great and powerful civilization of people that have the morals. We have the ability. The principles of Ma'at are based on 43 negative confessions. I will not. Then it goes into, you will not because you don't want to. That's different than thou shalt not. When somebody say thou shalt not, it just make you feel like you want to see what it's about anyway. Let me go ahead and see what that's about. Let me do that. I don't know. Why are you trying to make me not be there? But when you say, I will not go against my neighbor. I will not disrespect my, you know what I'm saying? So
That's
it's a
right. I will
difference
not
in,
steal.
I will not because I don't want to. If you care about your neighbor, you won't want to do anything that would harm your neighbor or harm, harm your family.
That's right.
So
May your
these
heart be light
negative
like a feather.
confessions, you want your heart to be weighed and found light as a feather. I'm learning so much. That some of the terminologies for the devourer, in the well, they call it the Book of the Dead, which is not the right terminology, but it's the book of coming forth by day. And in that we learn a lot about that Ma'atian example of when a person passes on to the afterlife, and they're ushered, and their heart is weighed, and you want your heart to be weighed to be light as a feather, because if not, then the devourer can come. And it's just meaning that you might have to come back and learn a whole new principle, but you want to get it right the first time in your lifetime, and so that you don't have to keep coming back here to get your karma and do it all over again. The karma, you don't want to, all of that. So anyway, I'm just kind of loosely talking on these things, but I am so grateful for an enlightening. And it's just like, when you open yourself up, I have a friend, she says, you chew the meat and you spit out the bones. Some things are more appealing to others. It depends on where you are in your journey. You may not be, you may not be, some people are not ready to let go of, because some people will say, well, it doesn't matter what color Jesus is and da da da, blah blah blah, but it does. Because if you can't see yourself in the God you serve, in your spirituality, you have to see that and know that there's divinity. You are divinity. Aren't we trying to bring people to what they are inside, to reignite the divinity and the spark of life in you? That has to be reawakened in each and every one of us, and we want to direct people to the source. I'm not here to try to convince anyone, because as I said, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, wherever you are in whatever it is that you have been taught from maybe birth, because as I said, my mother studied with the Jehovah's Witnesses from the time I was 2 years old. And when I really started opening my eyes, and when that, as I said, that awakening happened, when I had that supernatural experience at, I believe I was like 35, and I'm 61 now, and I'm so grateful. Yes, we'll develop that. That's the terminology. Amani is helping me. Daughter's helping me in the chat there. Thank you. And so we definitely are in a place now. We are in a golden age. I believe we are in the awakening, really reawakening to a golden age of thought. It's time to open our minds, and the Christ consciousness has returned. The Christ consciousness, and Christ is not Jesus's last name. It's an awareness, caressed, even that comes from our ancient Egyptian ancestors. That's an enlightening, a resurrection of understanding, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. That's where we need to be now. The wisdom,
because
the
they call them
knowledge,
the resurrection,
and the understanding. That's the resurrection, of our consciousness and our mindset. And we as African people, we taught that. We brought Christ consciousness to the world. We were the ones that, we established these principles of Ma'at and gave the morals and gave the morality. We gave that, we were the foundation, but we kind of lost it. We just fell along, kind of like, there's a scripture that also says, envy not thou oppressor, and choose none of his ways. So we got to where we fell from the light. We fell from grace. And so we want to get back to that. We need to get back to our rightful places and take our positions. We come together with our kings and our queens and complement one another and move in purpose. manifest the brilliance of our economic, we're able to, we have a whole $1.3 trillion as African American people, as Black people. I just say African ascended people, not descended people, but African ascended people, and the complementing of each other. We need to clear up our, come to a place where we really heal so that we can get along together, because we are more powerful united and together than we are divided and separated. So we don't want to continue in these divisions. Denominations means division. How many denominations of religion in Christianity are there? And I heard the Protestant one. It was
Wow.
it was a result of a protest. That's where you get Protestant, because they was protesting. So we just really need to come back to that place. And I'm so grateful for people like you and your Queen Amani, that you are wanting to awaken our people to this beautiful light source that is divinity all. And I'm just so grateful. I can talk, right, because I'm in radio.
Well, we appreciate it, Mother. It was definitely
I'm so
a
excited.
great share, and
Thank you. Yes.
we appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your insight. And we want to do a part 2 with you. My wife says, we need to add you to the roster. So yeah, your daughter, she feeling you.
Oh, come on, Amani. Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah. So we want to do a part 2 with you,
so
so you can expound some more.
Thank you.
And you're welcome, Mother. So any last words you want to share with those who are stepping towards the light now? They're on their journey, they're on their way, they're just beginning. Is there any words of advice that you will have to share with them for their spiritual journey that will help them?
I'm glad you asked. That's a good question. Take your time. Be still. There's a great power in meditating and being still. Now, for me, water speaks to me. I'm calmest when I'm by the beach. And I call that my therapy room. One of my mentors, Jewel Diamond Taylor, very dear, sweet sister. I got that from her, but I always was drawn to nature, and I was always drawn to the calmness of water. There's a beauty in the flow of water. And so when you're still, you give yourself grace, and don't be afraid to hear yourself and your feedback, and try to shut out as many outside voices as you can. It was a very difficult transition for me. I'm so eternally grateful for the solitude. Sometimes we don't like to be alone, but sometimes your solitude is where you definitely will get your answers, and you'll feel spirit, a still small voice. Okay, I can share that too. There's a stillness in being still, because you can hear, you hear sometimes just in the wind, sometimes, just butterflies. I love butterflies too. And they also represent a metamorphosis or transformation. Brother Tony Browder has that word, metamorphosis. Go back to back. Let's go back to Africa. There is so much such greatness in studying our foundation and our root. Learn your culture. Go into your own ancestry line. Give yourself grace. You ask, for people transitioning, because sometimes it can be a little scary when you're venturing into something different. You're not learning if you're hearing the same thing over and over again and it's nothing different. You have to be willing to expand your mind, expand your width of what you receive. Some people are set in their ways. Well, I've always been this way, and I've always learned this way, and I studied this way, and this is what I'm not changing anything. Open, don't be afraid.
Sound like me.
Hear a new thing. Think a new thought. Hear a new thing. Don't be afraid, because sometimes something will just, because it's everything we need is already on the inside of us. And you may hear something that just speaks to your spirit, and you'll say, wow, it's something that speaks to my spirit. I heard that, it spoke to me. My grandmother and I were very, very close. And if you have elders still with you, sit at the feet of your elders, listen to your elders, um, and you'll get so much from that. But I would suggest stillness and solitude. And God bless you, Dr. Pete. I saw before that you like water too. But I just want to greet everybody in the chat. I love you all. Thank you all for being here. Those of you who are here live now and will come and hear the replay and look at the replay, thank you so, so very much. I said, hear a new thing, think a new thought, and see a new place. Yeah, it's so
The
true.
question was posed to Mother, if you would. What radio station are you on? Your daughter asked.
Okay, so it's heavenradiofm.com, heavenradiofm.com. For those of you streaming, if you're not in the Charleston, South Carolina area, which is where I am, and you can't, get in your car and hear it, you're not in this area, you can stream us live. That website is heavenradiofm.com, and you click the link where it says listen live, and it's streaming live. I'm on Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
All right. And also, let me put this up here for those who want to follow you, because I know, will you come up on Instagram as your
I do.
African name?
No, it's actually Lori Johnson Boyd on Instagram, or Moments with LJ. I have both. Moments
Okay,
with
let me put
LJ
that
is
in
on
for you.
Instagram. Yes, Moments with LJ on Instagram. And of course, I have Moments with LJ. I don't know about the algorithm or whatever they call it on Facebook when you have a personal page, but Ufedoojo Agula. Oh, did you want me to say? Yeah, I've adopted my that's an Igala name. And do I have a minute to share what that means,
Yes,
son?
ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay, so Ufedoojo means the love of God. It's an Igala name, and the Igala kingdom is a kingdom in Kogi State, Nigeria, that has a real king still. We call him our Ata. He's my spiritual father. And Agula means he or she who remains will never go astray. So I have been embraced by the Igala people in Nigeria, and you can look up or Google the Igala Kingdom. Now, I know we know about Meghan Markle and Prince Henry and Harry, I think that's his name, and, Queen Elizabeth, but we still have real African kingdoms that exist to this day. And that's one of them. And I just want to give honor to the Ata, my spiritual father, and our ambassador. His name is Ayegba Abdullahi Adojo, and he's so very supportive online. He'll probably watch this replay. It's pretty late in Nigeria now, but I'm sure he'll watch the replay. So I just want to give honor to him, as well as my other Igala um, leadership, our local Onu, Abba Nazar. He's a prolific painter and my dear friend for almost 40 years. And there is Abeniche. She's in Florida. And like I said, the Igala Kingdom, I'm what's known as the Oma Anyete. Sometimes I forget that, but we'll talk about that in part 2. I've been embraced by my beautiful African family in Nigeria as their Igala princess. And we believe that the people, as the migration happened in that location there in West Africa, Ida is actually also Idah, Ida. We feel that the migration kind of brought some people over here in West Africa, Yoruba people, as you say, Igbo people, Igala people. We are so vastly, spread around and I am so grateful that I've been embraced by them. and been given the distinction as Oma Anyete, which means princess. That means more to me than any college degree I could have ever attained or achieved, to be known as their Igala princess and a representative here in the United States. And so I'm so grateful for that. Like I said, that could probably be a whole different show in itself and how that came about. And so, yes, thank you for that.
Welcome.
Yeah, that's correct. Moments with LJ on Instagram. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that's how you find Mother Family. Thank you for tuning in, Vibe Tribe. And we're going to bring Mama on again. You know, we greatly appreciate that, Mama. You know, we, of course, you know, we love you. We appreciate you. And we're looking forward to you coming on the program again. So we're going to schedule that. We'll talk offline and get your dates and get the times together again so we can bring you on. Let me see. All right. So she put up there. All right. So we have Heaven Radio.
FM, heavenradiofm.com. Mm-hmm. Heaven Radio FM.
It's not in family, it's M. She just made a typo. So
that's all right. Yeah, M as in Mary.
Heaven Radio FM, M as in Michael, okay, or as in mom.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, daughter.
.com, mm-hmm. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. through 3 p.m. Okay.
Thank you, Baba Roderick.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. God bless you. God bless you. And everybody watching, thank you so much. I'm grateful for you all taking the time out. You could have been anywhere else, but I appreciate you for listening this evening.
Hey, you know it. All right, family, we are out of here. Again, make sure you tune in every Sunday, Thursday, okay, for the program at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, make sure you hit that notification bell, okay, on Facebook and on YouTube, all right? Again, share and invite. Sharing is definitely caring. We out.